Welcome to Module 1, Chapter 4, Understanding Diameters, Lengths, and Curls. In this section, we're going to dive deep into how lash diameters play a critical role in the look, feel, and health of lashes we apply. As lash artists, it's essential to understand how different diameters impact the client's natural lashes, the longevity of the extensions, and how we can achieve lash styles like hybrid, volume, and classic. By the end of this section, you'll have a strong foundation in selecting the right diameters for different lash sets and knowing when to mix them for the perfect result. Now, let's get into understanding lash lengths and diameters and curls. It's important to understand that when selecting a lash length for your client, you have to take into consideration a couple of things. Number one, their natural lash strength. So is naturally their lash thick or thin? You can pay attention at this by observing their eyebrow hair and their head hair. Their head hair can tell you a lot about their natural lashes as well. So if they have thick, luscious hair, normally they have thick, luscious lashes. If they have thinner hair, then they usually have thinner lashes. Let's say you weigh 100 pounds and I come and I ask you, can you hold this item? But this item weighs 300 pounds. Will you realistically be able to hold it when you only weigh 100 pounds? No, right? It's gonna be a little too heavy for you. It's the same with an extension. If you place an extension that is too long than the natural lash, it's gonna weigh it down so much that over time, what's gonna happen? It's just gonna break and damage your natural lashes. As to why lash extensions get the reputation of, oh, lash extensions damage my natural lashes. Well, no, Becky, they didn't damage them. Your artist didn't know how to properly size you to what you deserve. And if a client comes to you and says, I want really long lashes, be like, okay, I would need to assess your natural lashes and see if you can handle it. And if they can't, be honest with them and be like, I'm sorry, but we can't do that, because that's going to jeopardize your reputation and the health of the client's natural lash. And you don't want to do that. You want to take care of your canvas. Your client's natural lashes is your canvas, and you want to make sure it's always taken care of by selecting proper sizes. So remember, when selecting the length of your client's lashes, don't overwhelm their eye, because too long lashes can overwhelm it. Don't put too much length, because it can bring down the look and make the eyes look closed. It can damage the natural lash and cause retention issues over time. If you're not quite ready for mentorship, no pressure. Just binge this whole playlist. Everything in this free course will give you a solid foundation. And whenever you're ready, the link to apply to my mentorship is down below in the description box. At TRL, we categorize lash lengths into 3 different categories. Those categories are small, medium, large. Small lengths are ranging from 7 millimeters all the way to 11 millimeters. These sizes are ideal for a client who either is petite, has small eyes, or has small natural lashes and wants more of a natural look that is not going to overpower her eyes. Medium lengths will be lengths 12 millimeters up to 13 millimeters. Medium lengths are versatile. They're used in between natural and dramatic sets. You can really customize them. This is where you start getting creative with your sets and creating different styles using different lengths in different areas. And for longer lengths, anything between 14 millimeters and 15 millimeters plus will be considered large. These sizes tend to look a little bit more dramatic, more bold. They will enhance the eye if used correctly. And they can sometimes overpower the eye if you overdo it. So be mindful when using lengths above 14 millimeter, because it can either go south or it can go a good way, depending on how you're using them. Sizes 6 through 8 millimeter, these sizes are great for inner corners, and I highly recommend you using these sizes for inner corners, no matter what style of set you do, because these specific sizes will elevate your look to another level. I can show you later on. Question: is it possible to mix diameters in a single lash set? Absolutely. Mixing diameters in a single set can add texture and dimension to your lash designs. For example, in a hybrid set, you can combine 0.03 volume fans with 0.12 classic lashes to create a layered look with different levels of thickness. It's recommended to mix diameters when you want to achieve a natural yet voluminous effect, or when your clients have areas with sparse lashes that need a lighter extension. Using a diameter that's too thick for a weak natural lash can cause strain and potentially lead to lash breakage or premature shedding. This is why it's essential to analyze the strength and thickness of the client's natural lash before selecting the extension diameter. For finer or weaker lashes, using a thinner diameter like 0.03 or 0.05 is safer and will maintain the health of their lashes over time. Understanding lash diameters is key to achieving the look your clients desire while maintaining the health of their natural lashes. By mastering how to select and mix diameters, you'll be able to create stunning lash sets that suit each client's individual needs. When working with different lengths, you always want to make sure that you map your client out correctly. And I personally like to start my inner corners with 7mm. This is a 7mm, and it's a smaller lash. You want to place it mainly in the inner corner. This is going to help ensure that your inner corner is very emphasized and you can see them, because remember, inner corner lashes are on the smaller side, so you don't want to put too much of a heavy length. Imagine you put a 10mm in an inner corner. Look at that drastic difference. Let me show you. You see how much longer that is compared to a 7mm? Be mindful of what you're placing in your inner corner. So I highly recommend you to place a 7mm, which is this one right here, in inner corners, and then work your way up to adding a 10. So remember, we placed a 7 and a 10. Now I want to continue with adding different sizes. So we're going to place an 8 right next to it. And so you can compare and see how an 8 and a 7 looks next to a 10. So as you can see, the first one is a 7, and the longer one is a 10, and this one is an 8. Side tip, this is how you create wispy sets. I want to demonstrate how you can see the difference in sizes. Especially if you're working in an inner corner, you want to work with smaller sizes. You don't want them too big. Now let's say you're getting towards the middle of the eye, outer corner of the eye. You can add a little bit more of lengths. You can add lengths like, let's say, some 10s and 11s. Let's start with an 11. This is an 11, and this one, when you place it, you can put it a little bit closer to not the inner corner, but more towards the center of the eye. We don't want to add this to the inner corner. We can add this a little bit more towards the center or outer corner. Now let's add a 12, so you can see the difference in lengths. I'll also add a 13 all the way to 15, so you guys can see how each length is a slightly longer and different. And here at TRL, we use all the way up to a 16. Rarely do we use anything over that unless a client wants something really, really dramatic. But like I said, we don't do anything too long because our canvas is our lashes, our natural lashes, and we want to protect them. We want to take care of them. As you can see, the shorter the length, the more upward it goes. The longer it gets, the more weight it starts adding onto the natural lash. As you can see, this one right here is already kind of falling. That's because it's pretty long. Imagine you put that on a natural lash. It's going to weigh it down. The diameter of lash extension directly influences how much weight it places on the client's natural lash. Thicker diameters like 0.15 will weigh more, which is why they are typically used for classic sets where we apply one extension per lash. Thinner diameters like 0.03 or 0.05 are much lighter, allowing us to apply multiple extensions in a fan without causing stress on the natural lash. It's critical to choose the right diameter to prevent damaging the client's lashes, ensuring long-term lash health. In this section, we'll be exploring how to determine the ideal lash extension length for your clients. Choosing the right length is crucial for creating beautiful, long-lasting lash sets that complement your client's eye shape and lash health. We'll also look at what can happen if extensions are too long and discuss the most common lengths for different lash styles. First, assess the natural lashes. If the client's lashes are thin or sparse, opt for a thinner diameter like 0.03 or 0.05 to prevent excess weight. For clients with strong natural lashes, you can use a thicker diameter like 0.12 or 0.15 for a more dramatic look. Always remember, it's about balancing volume and health. What is the most commonly used lash length for each lash style? Let's begin with classic. Classic lashes, normally people get them when they want something very natural, very subtle. So when I know somebody wants that, I automatically will choose 12 millimeter as my longest length and nothing further than that. Anywhere between 12 and 11, those are my two favorite sizes for longest lash. I always use more than just one length. I use anywhere from 7 to 8s, 9s, 10s, 11s. I'll use all of those, but mainly 11 and 12s will be my longest length. Let me demonstrate to you a classic set. This one right here, we added 11, 13s, and 12s. And as you can see, because we did a layering technique in this specific set, you can't really tell there's any 13s in there. So we wanted to add just ever so slightly a little sprinkle. For hybrid sets, depending on what I want to do, I always ask my clients. Of course, remember, we'll go through this in the consultation process, and that's how you'll determine what lengths and sizes would be best for them. But for hybrids, I usually like lengths anywhere between 13s and 14s as my longest lengths. I think those are really pretty, and hybrids usually I make them super wispy, and with those two lengths I can add so much wisp and texture and a lot of dimension to the look overall. Let me show you a wispy set. This is a lighter wispy set that we use 14 as our longest length to create the wispy spikes, and then we layered it down for a couple numbers to give it a very fluffier look, and we'll show you a better demonstration on an actual client later in the next chapters. When it comes to volume lengths, choosing lengths that can stagger on top of one another is very important, because with volume you want to create depth and dimension. So with that being said, if you want to create that really thick, voluminous look, you can honestly use any length you want. You'll be able to achieve them as long as you're making big, fluffy, and thick fans. Volume is all about heavy, thick, full, to get that dimensional look, that fluffiness that you want. And I'll talk about how to get those effects later on down the road as well, with showing you how to properly layer and add different lengths on top of one another. But with volume, you can honestly go all the way up to a 16, 15, because volume, we know, is dramatic, it's dense. Nobody really wants anything natural, they're asking for volume. So don't be scared to use different lengths when it comes to volume. This one, for example, we went all the way up to a 15 in the outer corner, and we tapered it down all the way to a 9 in the inner corner. As well as this one, we have 3 different styles of volume: a lighter, darker, and really, really dark. So it just really depends. I like to show my clients the different options they have to choose from. We went over lash lengths. Now let's go over lash curls. Lash curls is another key important component to understanding customized lash extensions. Selecting the right curl for your client will really elevate your look and overall client experience. There's different kinds of curls. Let's begin with my 2 favorite ones, C and CC. These 2 lengths I like to personally use because they look the most natural and can really emphasize and make a look extravagant or really natural and soft. Your choice. Let me start off with CC. CC curl is a middle curl. It's a little bit curlier and a little bit more defined than just C curl. C curl is a little bit softer. It's not as curly. So if you can kind of tell, if you compare these 2 together and put them side by side, you could really, really tell which one's curlier and which one's not. But with that being said, I personally like to mix both. My lash trays, 90% of the time, have a mixture of both. And when I mean a mixture, I mean my 9 is a CC, my 10 is a C, my 12 is a CC, and I go back and forth. And that's how I mix them to give you more of a dimensional textured look. But if you want to have an individual C curl tray, an individual CC curl tray, you absolutely can. It just depends on the overall look your client is trying to achieve. That's why it's important to do a thorough consultation to understand what curl to select. Now let's get into specialty curls. Specialty curls are M curl, L curl, J curl, B curl, all those other curls. Here at TRL, we use M curl. It's the only specialty curl I really use because I have a lot of clients with monolid eyes, and M curl tends to look and come off really nicely on monolid style eyes. So this is M curl. As you guys can see, it comes out a little bit straight and then starts to curve. So you have a flat base compared to CC curl, it's just curly, you know? It doesn't have that little flat base that you need. As to why on monolid eyes, it appears a little bit more. So this is Elcro. It's not one of my links that I use here. Personally, not my favorite. I have a love and hate relationship with it just because only certain people can walk it. But M Curl, on the other hand, is a really universal look, style that can be used for monolids specifically. You can also use M curl on the outer corners if you want to create a very foxy style cat eye look. This is a good way to create that effect. M curl, like I mentioned before, M curl is great for people with monolid eyes because people with monolid eyes, naturally, their skin folds down and covers their natural lashes. So when you go in and you put like a C curl on them, you really can't see it. You'll only see the tips. And some girls like it, but not every girl likes it. So if you want to make them appear a little bit more and show and actually demonstrate that they're wearing lash extensions, I recommend you M curl. M curl will really pop out because, like I mentioned, it comes a little out where basically the skin is covering the natural lash. So that's that part. And then the little curve comes out and sends straight upward. And that's how you can demonstrate and actually see the extension. So M curl is great for monolid eyes, or it's great for people who want to emphasize and get that foxy effect. You can even mix and match these curls. You can use M curl and C curl, M curl, CC and C curl. You can mix and match. Remember, lashing is an art. You can mix and match anything and see what you come up with. M curl is one of the less common curls, but it is recommended in specific situations. And let me explain. The sharp upward look can be a little too intense for some clients, and it may require a little bit more of a precise application when actually applying them. However, it's a perfect choice for clients that naturally their lashes go downward, or they just want a more bold effect, more of an editorial look that they're trying to achieve. So for example, let's say you have a client with monolid eyes and naturally their natural lashes always go downward. They come in and you apply lash extensions using C curl or CC curl. They go, they come back, and they're like, I want something a little bit more. I want something that you can actually see. I just feel like you can't see them. That's when you introduce to them M curl. Be like, look, let me try this other curl that we have. This curl is designed for clients like yourself. Would you be interested in trying it? Worst case scenario, you don't like it, we can change it out next time. And show it to them, introduce it to them, but talk to them about it. Explain why it's going to help them. And when applying, start them off slowly. Don't apply too much. Just apply slightly. And then little by little, increase the amount you're adding to make sure that the client transitions smoothly. Well, this concludes our lash links and curls. In our next chapter, we will go over on how to customize each set depending on your client's eye shape. We will also cover different eye shapes and what sets look better with them. And of course, cover styling and mapping out a client from beginning to end. Like I mentioned before, mixing curls is one of my favorite things to do because not only does it create a more texturedized look, it gives it depth, emphasize. It doesn't look so uniform and just like a straight line. Have you ever heard those people that say, my lashes just look like they're just one size? That's because they're not creating texture and dimension. This is where mixing curls and adding layers into your curls makes a lot of sense. For example, you can mix C and CC curl to create a very natural but soft look, still give it a little oomph, nothing too much. Or you can mix C and D curl to give it a little bit more of a dramatic look. Personally, at Tira, we don't use D curl, but it is out there, just putting it out there. Or you can mix M curl and CC curl to give you more of a foxy look. If you're creating a cat eye, you'll use M curl out here and then you'll taper down with CC curl. Or if you're creating a style that you want to create a dark lash line, you'll start with CC at the top layer and C curl at the bottom layer to give you that depth and dark lash line look, like if you were tail lining your waterline, if that makes any sense. So to wrap it up, don't be afraid to mix curls, try different styles and see what works for you and what works for your specific client. Because remember, we all have different unique facial features. And if your client wants to emphasize their eye, mix them. If they just want to kind of soften it out, you can still mix them and get creative with it. The world is your oyster. Try different things. Lashing is an artistry. So if you're serious about turning this into something real, not just a side hustle, but a booked out lash business, I'm opening up just a few mentorship spots this month. I only take people who are ready to commit. Apply using the form down below. I love to hear your story.